Once again, I thank you so much for being with me on my daily dose. As far as my health has gone the last few weeks, I realize I haven't given you much of an update at all, and that's simply because things continue to go very, very well. I'm very excited and very proud for my recovery thus far. Of course, as far as the surgery goes, my chest being broken, the scars such as that, all those things are basically fully healed at this point, so I'm not having any aches or pains or difficulties from that. The only thing I have to continue to do and remind myself to do each day is to get myself back into shape. I have to remember that for about 6 years or so, I've been so sick I hadn't been able to exercise. And so it's kind of tough to get yourself back into shape from that. But I'm still doing very well. I think I'm capable of doing 2 or 3 miles as I have been basically since surgery. And so I'm so grateful and thankful for that. I've also got to be careful as far as the things that I eat. I had some difficulties to begin with my taste buds, and that made it hard to eat some of my favorite foods, which basically were the foods that are off my list as far as things I don't really need to eat on a regular basis. But as my taste buds have come back, those things are much more appealing. I have to be careful with that. Of course, my diet's basically to watch my cholesterol things, greasy food such as that, and especially to watch my salt levels, the sodium that I intake. And that's really what we all ought to be doing, to take care of ourselves. Those are some basic principles, some basic things that we can do. Exercise, watch our salt levels, and of course those greasy foods, and we can maintain our health a lot better, especially concerning our hearts and such as that. So I pray that you're doing that anyway. As far as my preaching experiences as of late, I've been traveling an awful lot. I've been very, very busy having those wonderful opportunities. I began on Sunday to preach with the Sachs Church of Christ. Their preacher has recently made a move to another congregation just a little farther up the road. So I'm going to be filling in for them from time to time. Of course, that's going to be kind of a standard or stand-in thing. I continue to preach at Ironton regularly when Cliff is out of town. Of course, he's a great friend, and I'm always thankful for the opportunities he has to go out and preach the gospel and hold gospel meetings and such. And he has a couple of those upcoming, and I'll be filling in for him there. Of course, I'm continuing to be blessed constantly with invites and offers to come and speak in different congregations around this southeastern United States at least. So I'll be traveling to Mississippi in the next few weeks, such as that. I'll be traveling up to the Weaver congregation, who I'm so familiar with. I helped them out last year, kind of as an interim preacher for them for quite some time. So I'm going up there, I believe, the latter part of this month, maybe the last Sunday even of this month. So the opportunities abound, and that's thanks be to God. It's certainly God who allows that to happen, allows those invites to come, allows me those opportunities to do what I love most, and that is to preach the gospel, because it's my desire in life, as it was the Apostle Paul's, Lord willing, to save souls. Now from there, I want to move on to some silent prayer requests. What I mean by that is I'm not going to give you any names or situations necessarily, but I've had the opportunity the last couple of weeks of dealing with some people and trying to assist them who are in very, very difficult times in these days. They're making huge decisions in their life, some of which will affect and have already affected their salvation. And so I pray that you'll continue to pray for them, or look forward to praying for them as I mention them from time to time. And I realize by these being silent prayers, they won't know necessarily that you're praying in any way, but at least I can go to them the next time and say, look, I've already addressed a group of people privately about this, and I wanted them to pray for you. And so they can know that there are hundreds of people who watch this program each day and such that can pray for them and will pray for them. And I pray that if you promise to do that, that you'll fulfill that. That's really a command of the Bible that we pray, and you recognize that so readily. In 1 Thessalonians 5:17, it's the most common verse concerning prayer that we often use. The Bible there simply says, pray without ceasing. In Luke 18 and verse 1, Jesus speaking to his disciples, and I suppose others that were around, he said, men ought to always pray and faint not. And that's really the way it ought to be, because we have to be reminded constantly that the power of prayer is so great. The power of prayer exceeds what we could ever imagine. As a matter of fact, Ephesians 3 and verse 20, the context doesn't lend itself directly to prayer, but it does say this, unto him who is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that, watch it, which we ask or think. I think that lends itself to prayer, according to his power that worketh within us. And so there it seems the Apostle Paul, of course by the breath of God, is inspired to write words to say, if we will pray, God can do more than we could ever imagine. Of course, we have to realize how we pray, and we've discussed that on this program before, that we pray according to God's model, if you will. It's recorded in the book of Matthew. We also pray according to God's method. If you move on a little bit farther into that, he encourages us to ask, to seek, and to knock, and therefore we'll be able to find the answers to these things in life. And I encourage you to continue to do that. Look round about you this week. Find those, again, who have needs, who have things that need to be fulfilled in their life, who need your assistance, need your encouragement, and make time for them. Make time to encourage them, uplift them, and take those opportunities. More especially, however, I want you to lay some prayers before the very feet of God on their behalf. You know, oftentimes we think about situations in the lives of others exactly, and we say about that, you know, if I can't do anything else, I'll just pray. Well, actually, friends, and you realize this, that has to be and must be the very first thing that we do. After we pray, then those physical needs, then those emotional needs, financial needs, and even spiritual needs can better be met after and behind the prayers that we offer. So it's my prayer today that you would go about and try to encourage others, and through your prayers that are offered to God, make a great impact and encouraging position or point in their life. This has been your daily dose. And again, I pray that you've been encouraged.